And welcome back. Here we are, another weekend gone, and here we are with another recap, week 8. And this will be an interesting recap because it will not be long at all because there were no number one performances this weekend. As we are aware, the major conference championship weekend will happen this coming weekend, and here in Atlanta, I'll be at the ACC championship. So if you are there, speak up, say hey. I am looking forward. This will be my first major conference championship outside of the Big Ten or the MAC. I'm a Michigan guy from Eastern Michigan University. So this has got me really exciting. I'm curious to see what goes on, to see what Clemson has to offer, Florida State, Miami, see the home team, Georgia Tech, the Carolina Tar Heels, to see that great team. So I'm looking forward to it, and this is going to be a great weekend. There will be a preview video. We're not going to preview every single conference. We're going to preview the big stories heading into the weekend. I'm pretty sure there's a big story going into each of the five major conferences, which will shrink down to four next year, and that will be a talking point in the video. So look for that Thursday, possibly Wednesday. It all depends on the heat sheets and time. But we're gonna have a good video to put out. Um, Even though there is no new number one performances, there is still some to talk about. I do want to give a shout out to the Illinois track team. They did compete this weekend. They had an Illinois tune-up, and Petros, the coach, still remains to be just a superior, phenomenal coach when it comes to jumps. He has his young, talented freshman, Sophia Beckman, almost a 22-foot jump already. And she was highly touted coming out of high school. Clearly, making the decision to follow him to Illinois was the smart thing. And just keep an eye out for how things grow at Illinois. He's got a great group of jumpers already. And I think, that's only going to improve. I think they're going to really be a tough team to beat. I remind everyone he nearly won a national title at Georgia, and I think he will win one at Illinois, just to be very honest. He's very good at developing jumpers. He knows how to recruit all around talent. He's going to have his heptathletes come in. It's clearly it's heading in that way in Illinois. Illinois has been in the past one of the better programs in the Big Ten. And he's going to really have to step it up with, USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington joining. And I expect him to do that. Also, another big headline from the weekend was the SWAC. That was a pretty strong competition. No new number one performances, but we saw some eye popping marks in the high jump. Some guys that have now joined the top 15 list. We saw some great marks in the sprints. The SWAC, to me, continues to be sort of the premier conference for we'll say HBCUs and for smaller schools. I the MEAC is good. It is good, but I think the SWAC is the premier conference for HBCUs, and that's not just because of the schools that are in it. It's the performances. I mean, Jamarian Stubbs, who won the 200, ran 20.18. He's number 3 in the nation. So I mean it's really always been that conference to put out those type of marks, and Alabama State over the past couple years specifically have become more of a national threat, and I don't think that's going to change. But shout out to them. They had a really solid meet. Alabama State does look to be sort of the cream of the crop, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere anytime soon. Um, Keep an eye out for Stubbs. Anytime you can run a 20.18 in early April, you're doing some things. And he's only a sophomore. So we're probably going to be hearing from him quite often. You had Jordan Pierre on the men's side in the 400 go under 46, 45, 86. On the women's side, you had Asia Harris in the 100 from Prairie View, 11:34. And Nia Blocker from Florida A&M around 11:49. Good to see them back. And then we look in the distance events, although they're not, the same as some of the other schools. There was a 441 from Shemaya Jones on the women's side in the 1500. I'm still waiting to see what happens with those FAMU 800 runners. There used to be a bevy of them. There was an All American a couple years ago when I was a student. They're not quite there, but Florida A&M clearly in the rebound. But let's not be shocked when they start producing those great 800 runners. And another big storyline that I wanted to kind of go over is a recap of the World Relays because there were NCAA athletes competing at the World Relays. You had Dubin Amene of University of Michigan running for Nigeria, as well as Ella Ojinewevo of LSU run on the mixed relay. And she was pretty close to getting a medal. Um, and although Gotson, Eugene Broom, I'll just say Gotson because his last name is difficult for me to say. The expectation was that he would probably be on the 4x1. And I'm going to be honest, I think if he had been on the 4x1, they may have medaled. I think people forget how talented he is. And he did mention some injury issues. And I hate to hear that. I'm like, the SECs are next week. And they're at this time coming this weekend. And I'm like, what is LSU going to do with him? He's already on the qualifying list. So, open wise, he's number 4 nationally. So, if he does not compete this weekend and they just want to rest him to get him prepared for regionals, which is actually the most important meet, because again, you can't, there is no title defense, there is no chance of being an All American unless he qualifies. And so, they may pull him out of the SEC meet and just have him rest for regionals. If not, I hope that he's only running the 100 and the 4x1. But hearing that it's possibly some knee pain, that makes me leery and want to say to the staff, hey, I would rather see him at nationals, so let's just hold off until regionals. But it's going to be difficult for LSU because they have a very strong team on the men's side, as well as women. I think on the women's side, they are the favorite to not necessarily win the SEC title, but to win the national title. And we know that the SEC meet, it's more about how many athletes you can put in an event, similar to the national, but it's harder to put people in the national meet than it is, even though the competition is strong in the SEC meet. They're not good in the national meet. They'll be able to lean heavily on their sprinters and their jumpers, but at the SEC meet, you need to have a full, complete team because Arkansas comes with that every year. And so if you don't have that, you're not beating Arkansas. So we'll see. But I hope that he is on the resting side. I would prefer for him to be at full strength come nationals. And kudos to those young athletes who competed this weekend at the World Relays. Disappointing to see the American team 4x4 make, I would say, a big mistake. Please know the rules before competing in the 4x4. It is a simple relay, but as you saw him write, Champ Allison on social media said it was a rookie mistake. Let's give him the grace because in the qualifying round yesterday morning, he did a phenomenal job running a 44 split. I think this is going to be a very strong Team USA in the 400. Since they did that without Rye Benjamin or without Michael Norman. They have some really good guys. And Michael Norman just came back and debuted at a 44-2. I think he's going to run a 43 mid, maybe even a 43 low. He's going to, and this I think has the potential to be a very strong 4x4 for Team USA. But they can't ignore the great job that Botswana did. Um, Especially Letzau. Man, that kid is talented. I really, really wish we could have got a chance to see him in college, but I think it was actually, smart for him to turn pro because he just talented, and I think we got to stop ignoring that. I think long term he may be a better 400 runner. That's just my opinion. But that's just a brief recap of the World Relays. I was actually a little disappointed that there was no 4x8. I think that would have been fun. I think a 4x2 would have been fun. I would like to hopefully one day see a shuttle hurdle relay. I know that's too niche, but I love the shuttle hurdle relay. The 4x mile is a long one, but I wouldn't mind seeing who could win that. Is that just going to be a Kenya Ethiopia battle, or I don't think so. I think the United States has a strong mile group. I think Great Britain. I think Norway. I think it would be a very interesting 4x mile. Um, that would be great. So, but hopefully in the future we'll see more. I think it was more tempered down this year because it is being an Olympic year, but it was an opportunity for countries to qualify for the Paris Olympics, which is shaping up to be a great Olympic Games already, with just the teams that have qualified. And then our last big topic is the team title picture. Again, I think that on the women's side it is LSU, Arkansas, and I think Florida is, a good team, but I don't think they have the horses to compete. They've had some transfers, they've had some athletes not show up as of late this year, so I don't think this is a particularly strong team on the in the sprints and hurdles outside of Grace Stark and Anthea Charlton, and you know it's just the group is just not performing to where I expected. I think they have a great distance core. I think clearly their jumpers are performing very well, and their throwers are really doing well, especially Alita Van Dalen. So they'll be a top 10 team. I don't think they have the bodies to win a national title. On the men's side, I do think they have the bodies to win a national title, and things are shaping up very strong for them. They clearly have depth in the 400, the 200, and curious to see what happens more so with the 100. I don't think that they've even showed their full hand yet. I think there's been a slow, methodical buildup, and that is actually what makes me nervous because I'm going, they've been slowly building up. They're number one, and they still have not shown their full hand. So I think with the SEC meet being in their house this weekend, we'll have a clearer picture of just how strong this Florida team is, as well as this Texas A&M team. We can't ignore that. Texas A&M has a very strong men's team, and quiet as kept, their women's team is pretty solid too. But I think on the men's side, they are very strong because they're great. Same ways that Florida is, except I think they're a much stronger group when it comes to their throwers. I also think they're a much stronger group when it comes to their distance squad. Florida's distance squad is a little bit younger, does perform well, but I think you can't ignore the great strength that is Texas A&M, and we've yet to see what Texas Tech can really do. They've clearly been holding some guys back, waiting. They've not been in a lot of major competition outside of Texas, so I'm curious to see what happens. We know they have great depth in the sprints. We know they have great depth in the jumps. They've got a lot of phenomenal hurdlers, and their middle distance squad is pretty good. So I think Texas Tech will be there. We'll know more following this weekend, but I really do think Florida and Texas A&M are kind of slowly but surely separating themselves from the pack. And so that is this week's recap. I will be seeing you later midweek to preview what will be a major conference championship weekend. I do expect for the team title picture to probably shake some, not a whole lot. We'll get better understandings of the top tier teams. And if there are top tier teams that have been hiding athletes due to injury, we'll know this weekend whether or not that is the case. Um, we can't guarantee that some great performances this weekend won't push some to maybe pause until their country's Olympic trials because that's happened before. I mean, think about it. Veronica Campbell Brown had an amazing uh, first year at Arkansas, and after the SEC championships, I believe, she decided not to compete anymore until it was time to compete for the Jamaican Olympic trials, which turned out to be smart because as you remember, in 2004, when she did that, she won the Olympic gold medal in 200 and anchored a winning Jamaican 4x1 team. So the first of her many gold medals that she's won. But that, again, is our recap. Thank you so much for constantly supporting. I look forward to our next video, our preview. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Any comments are welcome. As you see, I openly converse with those who reach out in the feedback section. And if you get a chance, please look at the Pin Relays video recap. It is just a montage of great racing videos from the Pin Relays. Thanks for your support, guys. I'll see you in a few days.